Hello and welcome to another Introtech video about Scratch, presented by myself, Dieter Lander. In today's video we are going to review another course project winner. Today's video is of a project prepared by Mackenzie. She attended our 2015 Scratch course at Trinityhouse Preparatory School in Randpark Ridge. She won a second place prize for her ballet project. So before we dig into how she did it, let's give a demonstration of how it works. So we are running our project here. We've got a welcome screen. It says welcome at the top, then it says click here to enter your name. Now this is a bit tricky because if I click in between the letters or on a bit that isn't blue, it doesn't work. So you need to actually click on the blue and then it allows you to enter your name, which we can type in, click on the arrow, and then we get our next instruction. The next instruction says click here to go to level 1. Again we have to click on the blue letters, and here is level 1. Now my ballet knowledge is a bit sketchy, so you'll have to forgive me if I don't get this right, but the first question is click on the pose that matches the following. We need to find the first position. I'm guessing first position is where you stand up, so we'll click on that. You see, when we click on a sprite, it brings up a message to do the next thing. So we can say click here to go to level 2. Again, click on the blue in the writing, and now we're on level 2. Instructions are click on the pose that matches the following, the splits. I'm pretty confident that's the splits. Once we've clicked at least once, this will come up again. So we go and we click on a blue letter, and it says now click on the pose that matches the following, low diamond. Let's try this one. Okay, you see it brings up the next instruction, but it's up to us as to whether or not we proceed. So we can go and click on more than one sprite, and until we go and click on the blue instructions, it's not going to proceed. There we go. Level 4, click on the pose that matches the following, reliever pointe. I'm guessing it's the one in the middle here, and we are finished. Wonderful, Dieter, your score is 3 out of 4. So I guess my ballet knowledge is not that bad. Alright, let's go dive into the code and see how Mackenzie did this. Okay, so on the left here you can see we've got our stage over here and then a whole bunch of sprites next to it. So let's jump into our stage. We see Mackenzie's included a lot of different backgrounds on the stage. She's only used the last 6 of them, so the first one was obviously included but never used. And as you can see, we start off with our welcome stage, our level 1, level 2, 3, 4, and then our final stage, which is the same as the welcome one, but it doesn't say welcome on it. As you can see, Mackenzie has used the paint editor to take a picture and then write the actual instructions on with the text tool over here. If we go and look at the scripts behind this, okay, we have, let's just stop the program. When green flag clicked, Mackenzie has 3 variables. We've got a my username, a my score, and my number of clicks. Now the way she has named these variables is actually very good. It's a common programming technique called camel case, where you don't have any spaces between the words that make up your variable name, and you keep the first letter a lowercase letter, and then every time you start a new word you start with an uppercase letter. So U for user, N for name, S for score, N for number, O for of, and C for clicks. And what she's done here, she's initializing her variables. So every time the program starts, it blanks out the name, sets the score to 0, and sets the number of clicks to 0. Now the username is obviously used to say the message at the last screen, to personalize it, and the score is to obviously keep track of how well you did. But this my number of clicks might not be obvious at first glance what it's used for, but we will get into that as we progress through the program. After initializing our variables, we switch the backdrop to welcome to. So if we go and have a look at our backdrops, it switches it to that backdrop. So if you go and manually change it to any other backdrop, when the program runs, it'll set it to that one, which is always good practice. Then we enter a repeat loop, and we enter that loop until the backdrop name is equal to 5.end. And if we go and have a look at our backdrops again, 5.end is the last backdrop. So basically we repeat the loop until the game is finished, until the user has gone through all the screens and ended up on the last screen. And while this loop is running, it is playing a background sound. Now unfortunately it doesn't come through on the recording, but I do hear it in my earphones while I'm playing it, and that's why I've added the set volume to 0%, because it's a bit distracting to try and talk about the program while the music is playing. But I can guarantee you that it does play music while the program is playing, and it stops as soon as you hit the last screen, which is also a good way to do things. If we move over to our sprites, we see there are a whole bunch of sprites. There are about 12 sprites, 14 sprites here. And if we have a look at their costumes, there are a couple which are just wording. So click here to enter your name, click here to go to level 1, go to level 3, level 2, level 4, and then awesome for the last slide. You can see there are some other sprites in this one. Mackenzie isn't using them, she's just using the first one. But on the other ones we can see there's only one, and that leads me to believe that she has made these herself from scratch. And as you can see, the wording bounces around on the screen. It's not always in the same place, which is also novel. Okay, if we have a look at our ballerinas, we've got a number of them, and Mackenzie has quite cunningly named them so it's easy to keep track of. So all the level 1 ballerinas start with level 1 underscore and then 1, 2, 3. The level 2 ballerinas are level 2 underscore 1, 2, 3. The level 3 are level 3 underscore 1, 2, 3. And the level 4 are level 4 underscore 1, 2, and 3. If we go and look at them, we can see that there are actually a number of different sprites. Costumes in the sprites. But Mackenzie is only using the first one in each case. Okay, as you can see, there were some balls and balloons at one stage, but she's not using those. Okay, and the same goes for the other ones. Okay, we have a whole bunch of ballerinas. Okay, so let's get into the code. If we have a look at the code or the script for our first sprite, when green flag clicked, you hide. Okay, so that is basically an initialization step. You have all these sprites, you don't want them to all show up when the program starts, so when the program starts you hide them. Then we need to put in a condition to say when they must be shown. So we have a message block here which says when backdrop switches to welcome. We go back and look at our backdrops. Welcome is the first screen. When it switches to welcome, then we show. So we show the sprite which says click here to enter your name. Alright, and then when you click on the sprite, it does a ask and wait, but you can see Mackenzie has been quite clever and she hasn't put in a question. And the reason she hasn't put in a question is because in her costume for her sprite she says click here to enter your name. So that is the question as the sprite, and not a normal bubble that would pop up with the question in it. So we wait and nothing will happen until the user enters something. When they enter the answer to the question, they set my username to that value. So she's populating her my username variable with the answer which was supplied by the user. Then she does a check, which is a good thing. She checks to see if my username is equal to blank. Okay, if it's equal to blank, then we show the sprite again. If it's not equal to blank, then we hide the sprite again. And this is called validation. You can't always trust the user to enter the right value. You might have something where you're asking for two values and you end up dividing them, and if the user puts in 0 for the one value, you could end up dividing by 0, and even a computer can't give you an answer for that. So we do things called validation, where we check that the values provided aren't going to cause problems for the program. Alright, so then we move on to sprite number 2. Sprite number 2 has a costume which says click here to go to level 1. So if we click here to go to level 1, when is this going to come up? So again, when we start the program, the sprite gets hidden. When the backdrop switches to welcome, which is the welcome screen with the stage, we wait until the variable my username is not equal to blank. Alright, remember over here we set my username equal to the answer. If the user provided an answer and not just hit the enter key, then this will become true, because the answer will not be equal to blank, and not blank is equal to true. And if that happens, then we will show this particular sprite for the costume foot, which says click here to go to level 1. So when the sprite is clicked, we will switch backdrop to level 1. We'll set my score to 0 and my number of clicks to 0. Okay, the my score we do set to 0 on the first one, on the stage. If we go look at our stage code, there we go, we set my score to 0. So strictly it's not necessarily to do it again, but then my number of clicks, you will see we change on every level. So it is a good idea to set that here, and then we hide the sprite. Now as I mentioned, it's a bit tricky to click on the sprites, and the reason for that is the background to them is transparent. So if you click on an area that is not blue, you are effectively clicking through the sprite onto the background, and the sprite doesn't pick up that you've clicked on it. An easy way to fix that would be to put a block underneath the text which would not be transparent, and then the user could click anywhere and it would be registered as a click. But no matter, it still works if you know where to click, and we have just clicked, so we are in level 1 now. Level 1 has got these 3 sprites, the ballerina sprites. Okay, and we start off with level 1. Alright, and we are now on backdrop level, or 3.level1, which if we go and have a look at our backdrops, 3 level 1 says click on the pose that matches the following: first position. So we need to find first position. Go look at our script. When we click on the green flag, we hide it. When the backdrop switches to level 3 or 3.level1, we show. And when the sprite is clicked, so when this particular ballerina sprite is clicked, we change my number of clicks to 1. So we need to keep track of how many times you click on a ballerina. So if your number of clicks is equal to the score at the end, then you have chosen all the right ballerinas for the different questions. If your number of clicks is more than the score, then you have obviously chosen some incorrectly. It can also be that you have done only 4 clicks for 4 levels, but you may not have got all the right ones, in which case your score would be less than your number of clicks as well. Alright, so when we click on the sprite, which is the correct one, alright, we change my number of clicks by 1, and we say if my number of clicks equals 1, then change my score by 1. So obviously until you've clicked, only if you click on the ballerina that is the right one the first time on a level, then you score. If you click on it the second or third time, then you won't score, because you didn't get it right the first or second or third time. Because remember, there are 3 ballerinas shown per level. So that is a very good piece of logic that Mackenzie has used here. And then we have another thing: when backdrop switches to 3.level2, we hide this sprite. So as we are going through the different levels, we are hiding and showing sprites. Now what Mackenzie has done here, she's also used a note feature, which you can get to by right-clicking and add comment. If you do that, it brings up a little yellow post-it type note, and you can type information in there. This doesn't affect the program at all. It's purely for you or whoever works on the code after you to know what you are doing there, because it's very common for people to write programs and at the time that they write it know exactly what's going on, but if they come back to it a week or a month or a year later, it's not as obvious. So it is good programming practice to include comments in your code for the stuff that's not so obvious. So what Mackenzie has done here is she said this is the right option. If the user clicks here first, their score is increased by 1. Now there are two other ballerinas for levels 1, so let's have a look at this one. Once again, when the green flag is clicked, we hide. When the backdrop switches to 3.level1, we show. Okay, when this sprite is clicked, we increase our number of clicks by 1. So change my number of clicks by 1. But we don't do any scoring, okay, like we did over here. We didn't do this if, because the ballerina is not the correct one for the question. This is not first position, this is first position. And then we say when backdrop switches to 3 level 2, then we hide our sprite. So you get no points for clicking on this ballerina, but your number of clicks does increase. Okay, and once again, Mackenzie's used a note. She says this is the incorrect option. If the user clicks here, the score stays the same, which is correct, but the number of clicks does increase. And you'll see that the code is the same for the third ballerina. We hide the ballerina, we show when we move to her level, we increase the number of clicks, but not the score when you click on it, and when we move to the next level, we hide again. Alright, so then we land up with click here to go to level 2. Alright, and let's get back to our script. Alright, see when backdrop switches to level 2, we hide. So we show our next instruction, click here to level 2. So we look at our script. How do we know when to show this instruction? So initially it's hidden. When the backdrop switches to level 1 or 3.level1, we wait until the number of clicks equals 1 and then we show it. So every time you enter a level, you have to click on at least one ballerina to get your number of clicks up by 1 from 0 before the instruction to move to the next level will show. Okay, then when this sprite is clicked, we switch the backdrop to 3 level 2, so we're moving from level 1 to level 2, and we reset my number of clicks to 0. So every time you move between a level, we reset my number of clicks to 0. And we hide this sprite, so we get rid of the instruction when we move to level 2, and now we're on level 2. Okay, and the ballerinas work the same again. Alright, we hide initially, we show when we land up on the right level, we change the number of clicks by 1. Okay, if it's the right ballerina, then if the number of clicks equals 1, we change the score by 1. Again, what that's saying is if you clicked on the correct ballerina the first time, then you get a point. If you didn't click on her correctly the first time, it was your second or third click for the level, then you don't get a point. Alright, and when the backdrop switches to the next level, we hide. For the other two ballerinas, we do the same thing as we did before. We hide them initially, show them when we hit the level, increase the number of clicks if it's clicked on, and hide it again when you move to the next level. So there, that is exactly the same. This is the same as before. It's the code that we show to ask the user to go to level 3. So initially we hide it. When we say level 2, we are switched to level 2 for our background. We wait for my number of clicks to equal 1, so the user must click on at least one ballerina. Then we show the instruction. When they click on the sprite, so when they click on the blue letters here, we switch to the next level and we reset my number of clicks. Okay, and that is the same pattern that we use for the rest of the levels. They all work the same way, except for the last one. Okay, if we are in level 4, alright, you can see it, the code is a little bit different. We do start off hiding the sprite. We show it when we enter the right level. We change the number of clicks by 1 if the sprite is clicked on. If it's the first click, then we increase our score, and then we switch the backdrop to end. Alright. And when backdrop switches to end, then we hide our sprite. What about the other two ballerinas? Okay, this is the same as before. When backdrop switches to end, then we hide. Alright. And when this sprite is clicked, we switch backdrop to end. So on the last level, level 4, it doesn't matter which ballerina you click on, doing that will cause you to go to the last screen. Okay, and the last screen, if you want to check, we go to our stage. The last screen is number 5, the end. So let's go back to see what happens when we reach the last screen. So we've got our sprite called Awesome, which looks like this. And we go to our scripts. We initially hide it. When the current backdrop is 5.end, then we show it. And then we've got a whole bunch of conditional statements. By conditional statements, I mean these if-then blocks. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they are all pretty much the same. All they are doing is checking what your score was. So your score could be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then based on that, Mackenzie is building up a custom string to tell you how you did with the ballet test. So if you got 0, she says you need more practice, and then she puts in your username, and she tells you what your score is. For 1, different message, well tried, and you've got a different score. 2, almost there, and a different message, or different, it tells you your score. 3, wonderful, and 4, excellent, you are natural, and you scored 4 points. Now this works very well for this particular game. It could be simplified a little bit, because you can put in the score in much the same way that you put in the username, but it's a very nice touch that it gives a custom message per score which you receive. As I said, there is background music that plays throughout this game. Unfortunately, you can't hear it on the recording, but that does work very well. So all in all, Mackenzie did a very good job with this project. I'm very impressed with what she did, and we'll take one last look at it before we go. So let's go full screen, and let's hit play. Welcome, click here, clicking on the blue lettering, type in a name, and hit then click on the blue lettering again, click on the pose that matches the following. So let's click on that one, go to next level, click on that one, go to next level, click on that one, go to next level. There we go, and click on that one. Didn't do so well this time. You need more practice, Dieter. Your score is 0 out of 4. Very well done, Mackenzie. Very impressed with your project. As always, please put comments if you have any questions, and we'll get back to you on that. And please obviously subscribe to our channel. It helps us know that what we're doing is having an impact, and will encourage us to do more. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.